I, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you. Errol Spence versus Keith one time Thurman in April. They finalizing the deal at 154. My thought, a little shocked, but my overall thought is that is the most thug life gangs. So think about this. Keith Thurman was the mandatory or the mandatory for the WBC title for Errol Spence at welterweight. Errol Spence said that he wasn't going to fight Keith one time Thurman, right? Well, first of all, I want to say Errol Spence, I'm happy he's getting some kind of fight. With Terrence Bud Crawford, kind of getting busy and shaking the cobwebs off against Evanesian on BOK Prime. You kind of saw how Errol Spence looked a little shaky with Ugas, his first time back after a long layoff. You don't want those moments with Terrence Crawford having his tune-up, Errol Spence being out for a long time, and them fighting each other, and Errol Spence trying to get cobwebs. Terrence Crawford would take advantage of that. So I'm happy he's getting a fight in. But what makes this so gangster to me is Errol Spence said he was going to fight Thurman, but he's fighting him. And he's fighting him at 154. Thurman fighting him for no belt and just fighting him at 154, that's dope. I mean, Keith Thurman, he's not getting a lot of big paychecks, so I know the money has a lot to do with it. But on top of that, fighting him on the strength. Hey, look, I'm not fighting for any belts. I'm fighting him on the strength of the love. That, to me, that erases everything. That Errol Spence being petty, that helps a little bit because it's like, okay, we'll fight. Forget it. I'll fight the fight. I'll fight Keith Thurman, but he ain't going to fight me for my belts. I get that. Another thing, Errol Spence is kind of like Ryan Garcia. The reason why Ryan Garcia didn't want to fight fight a tune-up before Gervonta Tank Davis, is, and Tank Davis alluded to this, that he didn't want to go through a training camp, make weight, and put his body through that. Errol Spence, it sounds like the same thing with Errol Spence. I'll fight at 154. It's so hard for him to go through a training camp and go through 140, put his body through that for Keith Thurman. He'll do that for Terrence Crawford for Undisputed, and that's it. He's bailing after that. So to get the fight in, Keith Thurman isn't going to fight for one of my belts, but to fight him anyway, bet. That erased anything I have to say about Errol Spence about, would that be a ducking Keith Thurman? Would that be a duck? For years, I said Keith Thurman ducked him. Being petty isn't enough for me, so I would call it a duck. But if Errol Spence is going to fight him in April at 154, not a duck, obviously. Keith one time Thurman fighting Errol Spence for nothing, just for the bag, but fighting him at 154 for no titles, that erased a lot of that duck stuff that was going on before, and it makes stuff clear to me. Keith Thurman was a beast. He was. He had injury after injury, and he started sounding like a duck against Errol Spence, but he did clearly state, I remember saying that he wasn't ready to fight Errol Spence. He said, look, I told you guys that I'll fight Errol Spence when I'm ready, and to be honest, I'm not ready. I remember that clear. I forget what interview that was. Now that Keith Thurman has had his fights and lost against Manny Pacquiao and struggled with Mario Barrios, he's not on the right side of his prime. He's on the wrong side of his prime. But he's more healthy than he was before, getting that time to heal up a bit. But he's not quite what he was. On top of that, everybody who's touched his body hurt his body. Errol Spence is the bone collector, so he's going to be taking those ribs. But what I'm saying is about this fight, it's going to be hype. It's going to be a big pay-per-view fight. It's going to be a lot of money. I'm telling you, Errol Spence and Keith Thurman is money. Them fighting each other, their press conferences is money. It is what it is. They don't like each other. So it's going to be personal too. Look for a violent Errol Spence. I'm going to say this at the end. Errol Spence fighting Keith Thurman at 154 gives us a preview on the rest of his career, on how Errol Spence will look at 154. He may be at his best at 154. I'm assuming he will be. He said, coming down an escalator after a fight. Which fight was that? I forgot which fight that was. It was the Frank Martin fight. He said that he had no problem fighting Jermell Charlo, so he'll fight Jermell Charlo. 2-time undisputed seems like something that he wants to do. I know Bivol is one of those guys want to do the same thing, fight Canelo Alvarez at 168, try to be undisputed there, and then go back up and fight Better BF at 175. There's some 2-time, people are trying to do the Carissa Shields, No, Carissa, 3-time undisputed. These guys are trying to do something incredible. I'm all for it. I'm excited about it. It's worth it. Errol Spence, Keith Thurman, and Terrence Crawford, to me, they are two of the last welterweights of that era. Just two of the last ones of that era. Him putting Keith Thurman on his resume, to me, is necessary. Not as necessary as Terrence Crawford, but it's necessary. That way, Errol Spence would have beaten Kell Brook, Danny Garcia, Showtime Sean Porter, and fight Keith Thurman. That's one hell of a resume. And he definitely has to fight Terrence Crawford. Let me know how you all feel in the comments below. I'm excited about it. Showbiz, adult. I'm out.